and welcome to another edition of the Arkansas Football Recruiting Report. Hayden Herrera joined alongside Otis. Kirk. Otis, good to talk to you. A lot of different topics. We're in this kind of weird period before spring football gets underway, but still some stuff to talk to. And an interesting thing that we all saw this week, it looks like Ryan Silverfield might have to be back on the hiring game. It looks like Marion Hobby, who we thought might be coaching the D line, is headed to the pros. What can you tell us about that?
Well, he has a no compete clause, and that's, I mean, people have asked me, what does that mean? Probably, well, I mean, obviously it means something, but and somebody also brought up, well, he's going to the NFL. Yeah, but the way I understand his contract, he had a no compete clause with college and NFL, not just college, but NFL too. And so, I don't, Hayden, I don't think it'll get dirty. I think he'll. I think Ryan will just let him go on, and then he will hire somebody. I mean, I, I mean, you, on one hand you can say I can say that, and then you'll say, well, why have contracts? And there's some truth to that. But then on the other hand, it's hard to keep someone and even want them if they don't want to be here. And I don't know it so much with Coach Hobby that he doesn't want to be here. It's just that he's coached a lot in the NFL. He's moved around a lot, and personally, I'd love to see Ryan Silverfield go hire Alfred Davis at Missouri State. He's been at Missouri, played for the Razorbacks. When you get the NFL guys that have moved around a lot, they don't usually stay with you, and they just don't. And that's not a knock at Coach Hobby. Like I said, I'm not critical of this guy. I've never met him. He's a good coach. I mean, when he was hired, I had heard a lot of good things about him, and I still haven't heard anything bad about him. But I don't. Look, it may come out in an hour that they've contested it, but I just don't see it being a contested deal. I mean, I know you have contracts for a reason, but then again, I don't know that you want someone that doesn't really want to be here, and it may not even be so much he doesn't want to be here. Like I said, he's been an NFL guy, and I know he's coached college too. I get that he came from Tennessee, but I don't know. I just think you probably just cut your ties and move on, cut your losses, whatever, and move on. But if Alfred Davis is a guy that I think if they would hire him, it would end some of the changes so much on the defensive line. Now, Deke Adams was here for a while. Before that, though, it was a revolving door every year with Coach Pittman, on the defensive line, even before Pittman. But Alfred has coached at Missouri. He's at Missouri State right now, but he would be a good hire. Good man. I know him. I've known Alfred since he was a recruit, honestly. I was going to say since he played here, but I knew him before that when he was a high school recruit, and I wrote stories about him. He's a good dude, and I'd like to see him get the job. He's wanted it for years. A lot of people want him, a lot of former players. I put on X and I put on Facebook the other day, I'd love to see Alfred get that job. And I've had a lot of former players, I mean, a lot of fans, but a lot of former players also, Hayden, have pointed out they'd love to see that. He'd be a good hire. But Coach Silverfield will hire who he wants. He's got Coach Cotton to coach the defensive line. So it's not like he's without a defensive line coach right now. But if he replaces Coach Hobby, and that kind of surprised me. I mean, you didn't really see that coming so quickly. He was just hired here, 2 months ago? And so surprised me. But then again, like I said, man, when you get to the NFL season, in college too, but when you get to the end of the NFL season, you see a lot of coaches being fired, man, and a lot of coaches switching jobs. And when the head coach is fired, a lot of times, most times, I don't know, a lot of times assistant coaches are all going too. Sometimes they retain one or won't to. But so you kind of expect it. There's a lot of openings. When you take the head coach and then all the assistants, there's a lot of openings. So it's never a surprise when somebody comes after one of your assistant coaches in college from the NFL this time of year. Because the good thing is, it is after the two signing periods and the portal period. It's after that, and they've got some time before spring ball opens up here in March. So, Ryan's got basically a month to fix this, or to replace him. I shouldn't say fix it because that sounds like something wrong. I mean to replace Coach Hobby, and I've been impressed with what Coach Silverfield has done hiring wise so far. So I think he'll make a good hire again, whether it's Alfred or someone else. But just before that came out, when he was down in Hot Springs, he made the comment he thought he had the best staff in America, and
Yeah.
so he's high on the coaches he's got. I know when it first was announced, a lot of people would say, he promised this or promised. Well, who a coach considers a great hire doesn't always add up to who the coach. Some of the best hires at Arkansas have been guys when they're announced, you scratch your head and say, who were there? Jim Washburn comes to mind. I remember when Jim Washburn was hired, one reporter wrote that Danny Ford needed to hire a black coach to help recruit. And Jim White, he didn't know who he was. And it turned out Jim Washburn was one of the best coaches, ever assistant coaches, best recruiters to ever coach here. So, it's not always name stuff, and so you just people get hung up with that, but I think Ryan did a very solid job hiring this staff. He's proud. He's excited about it. He's impressed with them, and we'll get a chance to see them. We'll see Coach Silverfield, Coach Cramsey, Coach Roberts, and Coach Lunsford on Tuesday. There's a press conference at U of A. It's discussing signing day and the portal, but it'll be good to talk to all four of those guys. Be your first chance to talk to anyone other. Well, I know some people have private or requested interviews, went over and talked to them, but for the general regard, majority of us, it'll be the first time to talk to those assistant coaches. And it's good. And I was hoping we'd get something after signing day because we didn't last year. That came right after Coach Pittman had that hip replacement, not knee replacement, hip replacement. So we didn't get anyone after signing day last year. So I'm proud we're getting somebody this year. It's a little bit past, but I know with the portal, and then they had the Bent Hot Springs. So Coach Silverfield has spread a lot of different directions and staff.
Oh yeah.
They were on the road forever after the early signing period. So I get it, but it's good that we're going to finally get a chance to see all or talk to all four of those guys, and we'll have more. Because this is right now, I'm coming on here today, 2 weeks into the dead period. Halfway through a dead period, no recruiting, no off campus. Recruits can't come on campus. There's still recruiting going on, but boy, you talking about trying to find something football right now. It's tough, I admire the guys that do recruiting and can write about basketball too, because right now that's bailing them out. It's tough right now, but it's always football in the air, and but just to let people know, we'll have a lot more come Tuesday when we talk to those four about the early signing period, the late signing period, or the traditional signing period. I shouldn't say late, the traditional one, and then of course the 40-something kids they added from the portal. And I like the portal class. I think On3 has it ranked number 9, or they did. I
Yeah,
don't
it's
put a
pretty up
lot
there.
of
Yeah.
stock in recruiting rankings, but it's good that somebody likes the class. I do. The thing, and we've talked about this on here before, but Hayden, what I like about it, I feel like for the most part, they met all their needs, and I think they did. And I've said this before, but I think Coach Silverfield did a great job of mixing in the experienced guys, older guys, proven guys with some younger guys that went somewhere and played a year or two, didn't get to play much, but were 4 or 5-star recruits out of high school. Went somewhere big name school like Oregon or Southern Cal or wherever, Ohio State, and they didn't get to play as much as they wanted. So now they're looking for playing time, and I think that's where Coach Silverfield is really coming in and did a good job of mixing those two in. So I like it, but time will tell. And a lot of times, you say, well, if they didn't do anything at the previous school, what makes you think that well here? Well, for one thing, most of them didn't get a chance. Like Damian Sims, he didn't get to play at Oregon. It's not like he wasn't 4 and 5-star recruits playing for a playoff team ahead of him both years he was there. Same thing at Ohio State. Same thing, Southern Cal. So I mean, and then you got an exception with like Terrence Robertson came from our OBU where he did play, but he got overlooked out of high school. I thought it was wrong because I thought when he came to camp here, he was the best lineman at the camp that year. Arkansas offered him a walk-on spot. He took the OBU deal, went down there and really shined this year and so these kids have got 3 years to play at Arkansas. And I really like the idea of getting these former recruits. Robert's a little bit different than we're talking about with Sims and the other kids or the other linemen, but still in the same breath, they're young guys that I think really got a good future ahead of them. So I'm looking forward to it, Hayden. Um,
Well, when it
Spring
comes,
ball should be exciting this year. It'd be
yeah,
exciting, man, because we're going to see a lot of players.
when it comes to portal players that you think will have a immediate impact, who are the guys you're looking at?
Okay, yeah, I think at running back, I think you've got Braylon Russell, who's obviously is not a portal kid, but I think Braylon Russell's there.
Yeah,
And I'm not discounting Sessions, at all. But I really like what Sutton Smith and Jasper Parker bring to the table. Here's Sutton Smith. You've got your kind of lightning with Braylon. You've got your thunder. And then, Jasper Franklin's kind of in the middle, or Jasper Parker. He's kind of in the middle with he's 6'2", 205, so kind of not your big back, but not your small back. So I like the little guy fast, the big guy fast. They're all fast, but I like the combination that Ryan got there at running back. And like I said, I'm not counting out the others. The freshman or the kid that played from Parkview last year. That's what spring ball's for. And there'll be somebody emerge that we don't expect, whether it's running back or another position. But I really like that. At receiver, I've said Chris Marshall. This kid has a chance to be as good as any receiver out there. He was rated that way in high school for the most part, but various things have kept him from doing it. And not in the same breath, but a guy who really is coming on this year in basketball is Trevin Brazil in his last year. Not trying to step on Kevin or anybody's stuff, but I'm comparing Chris Marshall. Maybe this is his last ride. And boy, I've really been impressed with Brazil. And I think if Marshall, talent's never been the issue with him, Hayden. It's never been the issue. It's just been off the field, attitude, maybe not necessarily off the field, but attitude. So, but I think if he puts it together, I think you can see a big time receiver there. I really like Donovan Foppel, the kid from New Mexico State, same school that sent Mike Washington up here. He had a big year down there at New Mexico State, just like Mike Washington did. Probably had a better year than Mike did because, Mike split times at running backs at New Mexico State, got here and proved what that's the main guy he can do. But I really like Donovan Foppel. I think he has got a chance to really be. And then, you've got Jamari Hawkins played at Memphis for Coach Silverfield, Coach Smith. So I'd never count him out. Tight end that I'm kind of fascinated with, and maybe for no reason, is Ty Underwood. I mean, he had 2 catches, like former number 1 player in the state, Tennessee, went to Alabama, didn't work out, went to Boston College, never really materialized. But for some reason, I think Morgan Turner's going to get the best out of him. And I'm looking for a very solid season from Ty Underwood. He is what 6'4", 245, and like I said, he was real highly recruited out of high school. That hasn't equated to college, but there again, last year, who knows how it may work out. On the line, Bryant Williams may be the best kid they signed from Lafayette. Or from Louisiana. That kid, man, he is just 6'7", 335, just a big time offensive tackle. I like Malachi Braylon from Memphis. I think since Amarian's not here, I think Braylon will step in at that guard opposite Kobe Branham. And I think I look for Bryant Williams starting at tackle, but that other tackle could be, it could be maybe the transfer from Ole Miss last year that was here that played well, or it could be Roberson. It could be, Adam Hawks, Isaiah Clemens came from Memphis. So I think that right tackle or the tackle opposite Bryant Williams could really be an interesting scenario. On defense, I know 2 years at Oregon, he produced 1 or 2 tackles. Xavier Sims, I think he's going to be a stud on the defensive tackle. Hunter Osborne, another kid that signed with Nick Saban. He went to Alabama. Then he went to Virginia. I look for big things at him on the defensive line. Carlin Jones from USC. Carlin 6'2", 310. I think he's going to have a big season. And then, they added the late kid, Trajan Odom Ohio State. So, and then I really like them bringing back the two linebackers they did, that played on the team last year, but also you bring in kids like Kamari House, the leading tackler at North Carolina.
Yeah.
I'd be very shocked if he's not a big time impact player, because I think House, he led North Carolina in tackles, and I think he's kind that you can put in that backfield or linebacker spot. He can even better at Arkansas than he was at North Carolina. And then a sleeper there, it might be is Ben Bogle from West Virginia. He's been more known probably for special teams. Maybe that's where he makes his mark at Arkansas. But don't be surprised if he and Wyatt Simmons, and these other kids kind of make a name at linebacker this year too. I think he can play there. And then, God, in the secondary, I guess everybody's got a chance because they've only brought back.
Yeah.
I can think of one player back there, Mitch, and so Lakai Rowland, might be the best player in this class. From Portal, maybe, I don't know. I mean, they beat Ohio State to get him. That speaks volumes. I like the Johnson kid from Tulane, Jaheim Johnson. I think that might be your cornerbacks. But then again, you've got Caden Lee and some other kids that got a chance. Braden Lee got a chance to be pretty good. So, but I really like what Rowland and Jaheim Johnson bring there. It's safety. I like the Harrison kid from Cincinnati that came with the coach from there. I like Stottmeyer from Colorado. And then I think they signed some other guys there that, that can kind of blend in, and that'll probably be a surprise out of that group. Somebody that we don't maybe thinks as good as he is, or not that I don't think he's good, but maybe somebody you're not projecting as high, and he really makes a mark in the spring, So so I'm looking forward to that. I do think there's kind of a spot back in the secondary, be it called safety or be it called nickel, rover, razorback, hog, whatever you want to call that spot. Every coach has a different name for it. Whatever. It's a third defensive back in the back end of the secondary there, and I think Stottmeyer and Harrison will be two of them. The third one might be a little bit up in the air, And they signed some junior college kids too, and. We talked about last week on here. I love the defensive end the edge they signed from Hutchinson. They signed two defensive linemen. We had Antonio Sandro Bascom on here. Great player, great kid. I think he's got a chance to really make a name for himself. And the two kids on the back end, I'm going to be honest with you. One a corner, one a safety. I don't know as much about them. I haven't studied their film as much as maybe I should have. But I think, Arkansas saw something in them, and I think one of them or both of them can make a mark. Sometimes junior college need a year to adjust. And they're young enough that they need that year. And then Steven Souls is kind of an interesting name, at edge, linebacker, from Kentucky, known as a pass rusher. And something, Hayden, that's something you can never get too many of, is pass rushers.
Right.
And I think he'll do a good job there, and so Ian Williams came from Memphis, so we'll see how that works out. And then, they've got some other players from Memphis, but I think Coach Silverfield did a really good job. I like the kicker from Tennessee, and they'll have a new punter this year, but we'll see how that goes. But Coach Lunsford's got a reputation, maybe the best special teams coach in the country. And so I'm sure he'll have them ready to go, just like they have previously at Arkansas. And so looking forward to it. Looking forward to all of that.
Well, yeah, like we said, it's going to be pretty much a whole new team. And if you haven't seen already, they did post the new numbers on social media. So all you fans can get to start memorizing. I'm bad at memorizing that stuff. I don't know about you. I got to see them on the field, and that's what helps me, get all the memorization. But we'll be able to do that soon because the first practice is set for March 15th. We got the spring game on April 25th. So we got about a month until we get this first practice underway. And like you said, we'll get to talk to the guys on Tuesday, a lot of the coaches and assistants, about like what spring practice is going to be like, among other topics.
Even when I wrote that story the other day, and I put they're going to have a spring game, and there was a guy on Pig Trail Nation, not being a smart aleck or anything, but he said, "Well, don't they always have one?" And I didn't get a chance to answer him. I got busy, but my point with that was, yes, they've always had one, but with a new coach, I wasn't for sure they would, because some schools are doing away with that. Not
Yeah.
every school has the spring game like they used to. So some coaches are doing away with that. And I'll be honest with you, I wasn't for sure familiar with what Coach Silverfield did at Memphis last year. So I didn't know if he'd have one. But as I said before on this show, I'm old school geek. I like the spring games. I like to go over there. And I wish for once it wouldn't rain. We could get a spring game without it raining. Man, that's been the biggest thing in the past few years. It's just that day that they have the spring game, it's just pitiful, man. It just pours and spills and rains. And please, I hope for good weather this year. I love that game. It's a chance to see. And not only that, we're talking about recruiting on here, Hayden, and that's a recruiting tool for the coaches. They can get kids on campus to visit for that spring game, and those players can look. The quarterback recruit can come on campus, and he can see KJ Jackson, they can see AJ Hill, so you can see these kids at their position, what Braden Fuller. I'm anxious to see him. The running backs, they can see Braylon Russell. They can see Sutton Smith. They can see, these kids, Jasper Parker for themselves in every position. And I love when I talk to these kids, I ask you, who did you watch? And last year, a lot of the offensive linemen, or in the past, they didn't play the game. But in the past, when they came to practice, not the spring game because it was rained out as usual, but a lot of the offensive linemen, I really watched Fernando Carmona a lot, and a lot of them feel like they learned something watching those guys. Fernando was very good offensive guard. He's going to be one of the 6 Razorbacks at the NFL combine, scouting combine. But, I did have an interesting question, Hayden. I'll throw it to you, too. This guy asked me the other day, how can they have 6 players in the Senior Bowl, 6 go in the combine and win 2 games? Whew. That's a legit question,
Yeah.
And
you don't see that too often.
It shows you they weren't completely void of talent, So I mean, and guy like the receiver, that led the team, the receiver is not one of those 6, so they had some talent. But yeah, it does make you kind of question how you can have that much talent at the top, And I get they were short on some defensive talent along the way. It's more than just the top. Kim Ball, Xavier Sorey, Julian Neal. It's more than that.
Right.
Once you got past that, there was a gap. But I'm just saying that is a legit question that makes you kind of scratch your head at times. But then again, on the other hand, they were probably a couple of fumbles away from starting the season 4-0.
Right. Absolutely.
I mean, if they don't fumble at Ole Miss on that last drive, if they don't fumble and they beat Ole Miss might not be in the playoff. And if you don't fumble inside the 10-yard line, assuming you beat Ole Miss the week before, you beat Memphis, they're 4-0 to start the season. Then no matter what happens against Notre Dame, I don't think you've seen Coach Pittman fired. But that's a lot of ifs and ifs and ifs. And, and if I was 7 foot and had any talent at all, I'd be playing the NBA. So, instead of an old man that has been, never was. But so I know I get that's all ifs. But it is worth pointing out that it wasn't like they didn't have chances to win a lot of games. Who knows how that season would have gone had they started 4-0 instead of 2-2, and then getting humiliated by Notre Dame over at the stadium.
Yeah, I think that's the big what if that fans will be talking about for many, many years to come. But we'll see how those guys do in the combine, and I'll talk to Dan Scoff and see if we can get some decent weather for that spring game, and hopefully it'll be outdoors. All right, Otis.
Tell Dan to get on the ball, man, and do his job. What's he doing? I mean, come on, Dan.
He's on the job. We'll get him straight and settled
come
down.
on, guy. Cooperate with us, sports geeks.
Absolutely. All right,
Dan Sylvester is, yeah.
This has been another great episode. Thank you for watching the Arkansas Football Recruiting Report with Otis Kirk. I'm Hayden Herrera. We'll see you next time.